Fantastic. Hello, everyone. My name is Buck Woody, and I work at Microsoft. And I'm here in Orlando, Florida at Disney World at our first in-person conference. And I've been delivering sessions all week. We sent very few people vaccinated. We're doing the socially distant thing and all that. But because there's very few of us, we've been doing a lot of work. Done 6 sessions so far, one pre-con, and I have a post-con later today. So what we're talking about right now is how to give a presentation, a technical presentation, in 10 minutes without appearing rushed. So I call this is not a rush job. And I'm going to give you your first tip. Your first tip is right there on the screen. You'll notice I've got a short URL there that points to my presentations. To prove you can do a complex topic in a short period of time, I'm actually using a one-day workshop that we're going to condense down into 10 minutes. But the first tip is, if you've got a lot of material, you can sort of PK zip it into a smaller format and then unzip it by pointing people to a GitHub repository with all your materials. Now, the BW there does not stand for Bob Ward, nor does it stand for Ben Weissman. It actually stands for Buck Woody, the original BW. So let's get started here. We're going to start, first of all, by saying if you're going to do a presentation in a short period of time, you probably need a presentation, right? And presenting is a little like selling. Don't make that face. It really is. You like that or you don't like it, it is what it is. You need to learn to sell. And if you don't believe what you're talking about, neither will anyone else in your audience. If you're not enthusiastic, your audience won't be enthusiastic. So whatever you're talking about, you need to select that subject as you first get started. You can tell because I said this is not a rush job on top of our title. So that initially sets what we're trying to do. So to get yourself ready to do a concise but effective presentation, the first thing you need to do is pick your content. And there's a few different content types or structures you can follow for your talk. As you're thinking this through, some of these take a little longer to present than others and will require more progression. Features and benefits you can usually do quite quickly, so that's a good one to choose. A case study is often quite difficult to get done in a short period of time, but once again, you can use the trick of pointing to different materials. Modular is another place where you can do a fairly quick presentation, but it's a little longer than features and benefits. The compare and contrast can quite possibly be the longest. In other words, if you know Oracle, here's how you do this in SQL Server. And so what this does for us then is it says you'll need to pick your topic and you'll need to be more specific in that topic. In other words, you don't want a broad topic to get started there. So as you begin to research and compose your topic, this is another place you can begin to make that a little more concise. The first thing you need to do is just come up with your main points. Get 3 to 5 points. Keep in mind, if you have 5 points, that for a 10-minute talk is 2 minutes a point. That's pretty quick, so you'll want to practice with that. Get your main points out. Then lay in your graphics. Now, for a short presentation, you don't need a lot of graphics. You merely need to show state how something is, and the transition from that state, where it goes from and to. Like you take a backup, you show the database, you click a button, and the animation goes and shows the database moving over to another drive or a tape system or whatever happens to be. So you show state and state transition. Don't go crazy on the graphics because they steal time that you're trying to conserve for your actual presentations. So whenever you do your animations and so on, think about that. Now we come into another interesting part of a short presentation, and that is the demo dilemma. Do I demonstrate something in a short period of time? Demos can often be 5 to 7 minutes all by themselves for one single topic. I was the demo dolly for Bob Ward in the keynote this week, and I demonstrated one small topic and it was 7 minutes long. So if you have a 10-minute talk, that's really going to restrict what you're able to get through. So how do we do this? Well, here's the first tip. Demo only the point you're trying to make. I see a lot of people spend so much time in the demo setup and explaining the database they used and so on that they neglect to talk about the whole point of the select statement or whatever it happens to be that they're using. So I don't recommend that you pick a very broad example. Pick a short, simple to understand example. It's okay to do hello world type stuff. You're focusing on the point of the demonstration, not the demonstration. Next, This isn't a time-saving tip. It's just a tip in general. It's one of my #1 complaints. I'm getting older. I can't see. Everybody has these tiny little fonts on their very cool monitors on a black background, and I can't see it. Make your fonts bigger. Also, always use dark fonts on a white background. I know you're very cool with your dark mode in developing. That's pretty awesome. But visual acuity and contrast polarity, you can look those up. It shows that you really should be using a white slide or a white background on your development environment and a dark font. That's just the way that works. So that's got nothing to do with timing. It has everything to do with getting your point across, though. Also, make sure you practice and you have a backup. Now, I recommend if you're going to do a demo in a short period of time, I highly recommend you just record that demo with no sound and then talk over it during your presentation. We tend to look at presentations like I'll never be able to fill this time. It's the opposite. You always have so much more material than you can get through in a short period of time. Well, another thing you need to do is to select your audience. To make it short, you need to make sure they're the right people at the audience. If you try to present cold fusion to a kindergarten class, you're going to have so much background to maintain that you're not going to be able to do that. And there's ways that you can do that right within your abstract of your talk. What does your audience know already? What do they need to know? What are you going to say? What will they learn to do? And once again, you keep your topic quite concise. Well, let's move to the most important part, which is your delivery mechanics. Here's the thing I'd recommend you do. You need to understand your deck management. We talked about having graphics for state and movement only. Simple and fewer is better for the graphics. Make your fonts bigger. Use the presentation view. I'm using that right now. If you don't know what that is, go look at it. It's got a timer in it. And what you can do is you practice, you can see how long you take on each slide, make a little scorecard so that you know. And by the way, that brings up everything you need to know, which is to practice a lot. This session management idea is to get there early, repeat any questions you're asked, slow down. We think we don't have a lot of time, and we don't. But you've got plenty of time, and when you're done, get off the stage. Now, your verbal skills and confidence, here's the key to this whole entire presentation. We're almost done, but the most important thing is to practice. You have to practice. Get a coach. Have someone sit with you. If you're nervous about doing that, inside PowerPoint, the latest versions, there's something called the presentation coach, which will listen to your presentation and then give you advice right on the screen. It will literally listen to you talk. Make sure you understand the turn points, the landmarks you want to say. Now, there's always going to be difficulties. You're always going to have a problem. So I always explain to people you need to make sure you understand the difference between high tech, low tech, and no tech. High tech is if everything works. My light is working, my camera's working, my microphone is working, Teams is working, you guys can hear me, everything's working that way. But you may have the time when there's low tech. Someone pops up from the audience and she says, I can't hear you, I can't see you. And another lady says, oh, wait, I see you, but I can't hear you, and so on. What would you do if something failed? You need to have that in mind. Lastly, what would you say if you had no technology at all? All you've got is your voice alone. I was in Portland, Oregon one time delivering a session, and all the technology failed. And so what I did was I had members of the audience come up on stage and act out my PowerPoint. You always need a no-tech backup. So whenever you do a presentation, short or long, make sure you understand how to do high-tech, low-tech, and no-tech. Well, we've covered a lot of material in a short period of time, and you recall that I gave you that very special tip of sort of PK zipping your stuff and then unzipping it over on GitHub. Well, here's mine. You're welcome to find any of my presentations there, including this one. It's an entire one-day course that we teach, but I teach it at UW and other places, but you can have it for free. I really appreciate your time and your attention this morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and enjoy the rest of these 10-minute lightning sessions. Thank you, Ben, for having me.